everybody, I'm Jeff Perro. Welcome to another episode of Catch Up with JP. Today's guest is Mr. Glenn Williams. Mr. Williams was signed at 16 years old by the Atlanta Braves out of Australia. He went on to a long professional career, represented Australia in many international competitions. He is now the CEO of Baseball Australia, which basically means he has his hand in everything baseball related in Australia. It was a really fun conversation. It really got me pepped up about international baseball. Thanks for tuning in. I'm here with Mr. Glenn Williams today, the CEO of Baseball Australia. Sir, I certainly appreciate your time.
It's good to have a chat with you, Jeff.
I grew up around Baseball America. In 1993 and 1994, that name Glenn Williams, that was just all over the place. Now, I know baseball in Australia has developed a lot since then, and a lot of that is because of you. But what was baseball like in Australia back in the 90s? And what was that being a 16-year-old kid going from Australia to the United States?
I was fortunate to be around the game a lot of my early years. My dad played, so I grew up loving it, and then had opportunities to be around some of the ABL teams as a bat boy and then as a development player. And I grew up in the era where Craig Shipley had just, reached the major leagues, and he was the first player from Australia in the modern era to play in the big leagues. So I knew Craig well. He was my hero growing up, and, to see him get to the major leagues was awesome. Then David Nielsen, gets there, Graham Lloyd gets there, Mark Eddles gets there, and a bunch of Australians hitting the big leagues, kind of late 80s, early 90s, and it really kind of, shone a light on baseball in Australia from an international perspective. So there was a lot more activity, a lot more players getting signed, and then, for me, I guess the spotlight and the highlight on Australia meant that there was a lot of clubs looking at the opportunity at the moment, and they're looking for the next Australian player coming out of the talent hotbed at the time of Australia, and it was a pretty good prospect. And
it was a good time to be a 16-year-old baseball player in Australia, especially a stud.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. Well, at the time I was loving the game and pretty advanced for my age, and had been around it for a long time. So if I probably reflect back, and I did a little bit of scouting with the Tigers part-time, if I kind of look back at it, probably advanced feel for the game and understanding of the game, and probably doing things on the field as a 16-year-old that were quite impressive. And from an athletic perspective, had some power, switch hit, run a little bit, good arm, and everything that they were kind of looking for. So right place, right time, and it was something that I grew up dreaming of doing. So chance to be able to sign with the Braves as a 16-year-old was pretty cool.
It's something that you grew up dreaming of doing. How did those dreams compare to what you walked into in your first spring training in the United States, or your first season in the low minors? How did that dream match up with what reality was?
Yeah, well, look, when I guess probably reframing what I grew up dreaming of wanting to do is
right.
Being a minor league baseball player. I spent a lot of time doing that, and quite contrary to it. But from as long as I can remember, I wanted to play in the big leagues. But heading over as a 16-year-old, I went to instructional league in September of 1993.
Okay.
And a 16-year-old who was playing club baseball. I played a little bit of international baseball. To go into a Brave system that had some of the top prospects coming through was a real step up. And when you're 16, you kind of go in there with some expectations on yourself that are probably really unrealistic. But look, it was great to be able to get over there and start my career, and I learned a lot. There were some great coaches. I had some really good support early on and made some good friends. So it was probably a really good intro to what professional baseball was going to be like for me. And I valued the experience. My first spring training, I went over there. I vividly remember the date. It was the 22nd of February in 1994, and I went to early spring training, entirety of spring training in West Palm Beach. Then I stayed for extended spring training, and then the Golf Roast League. So when all of my teammates and everyone who'd been there with me since that time it started, were all heading north to either Idaho Falls or Danville, Virginia. I was stuck in West Palm Beach, and it was myself, Bruce Chen, who ended up going on and having a great career in the big leagues,
Mm-hmm.
and Andrew Jones. We were the three players that were kind of left over. We were the three kind of young guys that had come in from international that they didn't think we were ready for rookie ball, under lights.
But that sure makes for a long summer between extending all of that. That makes for a long grind for your first full season introduction to professional baseball.
Yeah, mate, it's really difficult. We stayed at I think it was a Radisson or a Ramada there at West Palm Beach, and it was a nice hotel, but, stuck in a hotel room for, going on 7 months. They broke us out of there, I think, right at the back end of, Danville's season. So Andrew and myself went up to Danville, I want to say, for the last month or 6 weeks of the season. So that was a really cool experience to be able to do that and, play with some, great guys on that team. Like Kevin Millwood was on that team, and that was a really cool experience to be able to get up there and experience that in Danville. But yeah, made for a long summer, and then the season got finished, and we were back down there for instructional league. So I think I ended up leaving in late October or something like that. So a very big, what do they say, baptism by fire. And in that West Palm Beach heat, it was definitely we were definitely on fire today.
And then, so then you started the long march from there, up through the ranks with the Braves, and then later on with the Blue Jays, and then 2004 happens, and you finally get that debut. How did that's a long time. 10 years in the minor leagues before your major league debut is a long time. What kept you going?
Look, I think that when I initially as a kid, the opportunity, the dream to play in the big leagues was something that I really wanted to be able to do. And, as a young man, heading over as a 16-year-old with probably unrealistic expectations of myself, I thought it was probably going to be a tad easier than it ended up being. Yeah, look, disappointing. I worked hard. I had some injuries and all those kind of things, like early on. And then when I got released and picked up by the Blue Jays, it's kind of a second lease of life. And, that's when I kind of really, truly feel that, I had a little bit more control of what was going to happen in my career and a little bit of an idea of how to really get the most out of my ability. So, that was great. I'd spent some time there. And then, to get to the Twins, that was a really good opportunity. So, for me, I left the country wanting to be a major leaguer, and, there was plenty of times where you want to kind of pack it in and go home. A lot of support from family and friends to be able to do it, but also that internal drive of, wanting to make sure that I at least completed what I set out to do. So,
and you did.
I feel fortunate that, the Twins gave me an opportunity, and I probably had the best year of my career in 2004 with Toronto, and I was coming off the silver medal win with Team Australia at the Olympic Games, and I thought I was a shoo-in to be able to get a September call-up and, kind of realise that dream. And, Toronto were going through some changes internally and, really kind of adopting, a money ball principle around on-base percentage and all those kind of things. So that wasn't me. And, obviously I wasn't part of their plans for the future. So that didn't work out for me. So the next year when I got picked up with the Twins, again, it was, another chapter of my career, and I got injured in spring training, which probably didn't give me the best opportunity, but ended up having a really good season. And to get called up in June of 2005 was something that, it's kind of justification of sticking it out long enough to make that become a reality. So fortunate to have gotten to the big leagues, and enjoyed my brief time when I was there. And it's nice to be able to look back and say that I was one of the 38 or 39 now Australians that have played in the major leagues.
Okay, 39. I had it at 38. Who was the 39th? Who did I miss?
I want to say it was...
Must have been recent. I don't know.
Yeah, so Jack O'Loughlin, I want to say.
Oh, okay.
Maybe last year. Yeah, so really quite new to it. So, but the numbers are always challenging. We've had a guy named Kevin Jordan who played with the Phillies in the big leagues, who spent a lot of time in Australia, and some people count him as an Aussie. I think he would count himself as an Aussie in there, so the number fluctuates. The thing that I think that is amazing around Australian baseball and the growth of Australian baseball is that, that we aren't fixated on what that number is, because, and it's getting to the point now where it's, look, we've had some guys in the big leagues, right? It's not as if, we've had 10 or 11 or whatever, so we're really proud of it, and the fact that we can't pinpoint that number.
Exactly. You don't really need to anymore.
Yeah, we don't really need to anymore, and, sign of, hopefully things to come.
You made that debut in June of 2005, and you're 3 weeks as an active major leaguer was you performed.
Yeah, look, it was good, enjoyable, and I was swinging the bat well in Rochester before I got called up, and I was provided some opportunities to be able to go up and contribute to the team, and so yeah, kind of relief of making it to the big leagues, excited about being there, and then the drive to kind of go, what do I need to do to give myself the best chance of staying here? So hit in every game that I played in, which I think is still some sort of obscure.
It's got to be some kind of record.
People that, yeah, like it's so that was really cool, but fortunate to have been given the opportunity by Terry Ryan, and then when I got up there, Ron Gardenhire as the manager to put me in some spots, and swung the bat well, and the better that I swung it, the more opportunities they gave me. And
you had the injury.
Yeah, look, it was that was disappointing. Obviously, it was heart wrenching at the moment at that time. So look, disappointing, but I look at it now, and hindsight's 2020. I wish I had played more time in the big leagues. Obviously, I think that everybody who probably has a big league career, outside of those Hall of Famers that spent 20 odd years that have just had enough, wish they could have spent more time in the big leagues and enjoyed it, and competed and performed and all those kind of things. But it could have happened to me in May of 2005 in Norfolk, Virginia, as opposed to happening.
It could have happened in 1996.
Yeah, that's right. So fortunate that it happened at that time, and I had the chance to be able to do it. But yeah, devastating at the time. I played a couple of years after that, back in AAA. But by then I was married, and my wife was a huge supporter of what I wanted to do, and I made a decision after 2007 that there was a real opportunity where I felt like I could go back and play and had a real chance of playing in the big leagues, that it was time for me to look to do something else. And, as fate would have it, no offers came forward from MLB clubs. I went to an Olympic qualifier in March of 2008.
Right.
And if we hadn't qualified, then I was going to go and play an independent league somewhere and make sure that I was ready for Beijing Olympics, my third Olympic Games. Yeah, it didn't eventuate. We didn't qualify, so I went home, and that was it. I haven't played baseball since.
My two interests with this thing. First of all, like I said, I grew up reading Baseball America, and I always flipped to the back pages, and the foreign leagues, the international leagues were. And it didn't have a whole lot of information, but you had the leaderboard, and it had names of guys that you recognize from the minor leagues in the United States and the big leagues, playing in Japan, Korea, Australia. And I've always had an interest in international baseball. To me, when they said professional baseball players in the Olympics, man, that was just the coolest thing. And then, of course, the World Baseball Classic has been invented since then. So I can't imagine that feel as a professional baseball player playing for your country.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's a different style of baseball, and it's like every pitch matters, every at bat matters, and it's almost like it's playoff baseball, right? But it's a different opponent every day, and sometimes you're relying on other results that happen, and all these kind of things. But when you're playing for your country, it's a different level of pride, and by virtue of pulling on a national team uniform, unlike professional baseball, you're out there trying to compete and help your team win. But the uniform that you're wearing is irrelevant because they're paying the bills. So somebody else,
as long as you're wearing a jersey.
Yeah, you're wearing as long as you're wearing a jersey, you're representing a team, you get paid. That's what professional baseball's like, and you get really attached to your team, and you want to win, and get that camaraderie. So, but when you pull on a national team uniform, basically you're doing it, for your country, and you've got a bunch of colleagues that are doing what you're doing. So they're doing the same thing that I did. They got on a plane and they went and lived a difficult life of playing the minor leagues, and they're balancing family and friends, and to come together and have that common goal of trying to, win for your country, it means a lot to people. So, and I think that it's really great to see the evolution of international baseball, and I think that LA 2028 will be amazing. They're doing what we can here in Australia to have baseball, softball in 2032. The emergence of the World Baseball Classic, the Premier 12, the way the fans get into that, the way it's being followed now, and the commitment by superstars from around the world is what's going to really continue to drive that interest. So, for us to play in Tokyo in 2023, Otani's on, Samurai Japan, and, we're playing our national team is playing against Japan. There's 43 million viewing audience in Japan alone.
That's amazing.
It's a huge event. It's followed really, significantly, and it's made better when guys like Otani are playing in it, and Trout are committing to it, and all these MLB superstars are actually taking time out of their preparation to go and be superstars in the big leagues to go and try and do something amazing and special for their country. So it really helps the growth of baseball around the planet, and it helps shine a light on just how amazing baseball can be.
I got goosebumps. Like I said, I'm already so excited about anything baseball in the Olympics and the World Baseball Classic. That you just kind of fed me that how much momentum and growth there still is to be on up to the 2030s. So that's just exciting. Thank you for that.
No problem.
So then, after you played professional baseball in the United States, you played in the Olympics, you turned into coaching, and you later became the general manager of Team Australia, correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
And now your current role is CEO of Baseball Australia. So tell me a little bit about what your job is and what you do and what your goals are for the growth of baseball in your country.
Yeah, look, I feel really fortunate to be CEO of Baseball Australia, and I grew up, I pretty much had a touch point at every level of the sport, which is a really, big advantage for me. So I've experienced great opportunities at local baseball. I've had great coaches, people that have assisted me. I've, played in major league events. I've, I've done pretty much everything that, a lot of people that are, playing the game here want to do and want to experience. So I feel really fortunate that I'm leading the organisation. I've got a great board who are very supportive, and we've got a really passionate, baseball community here in Australia that, really want to see great outcomes for it. But the core things that we do as an organisation is we try to increase our participation. So we've got a little over 40,000 active playing members. And we're trying to grow that at 5% per year. So we're looking at ways that we can engage the community, tell our story differently as well. So we want to promote baseball and, have it up there as a sport of choice for, young people that want to take up the game. We operate the ABL. We want to be the winter league of choice for professional players who want to have a great development opportunity and a great opportunity to be able to compete in a really unique league. And some of the stuff that comes along with that you don't necessarily feel as a player is, some of the governance around it, the marketing media. We started our own channel, Baseball Plus. So we have an app that's associated with it where all the baseball content is pulled into kind of one location. So we're looking at ways we can broadcast things. We're looking at marketing media and how we can really kind of grow the footprint of our sport here in Australia. And like a huge element, that comes in on what we do is we put national teams on the field. So we want our national team to be really successful in international events, and we want to kind of promote the amazing stories that happen for Australian baseball players who are doing things great internationally, or personnel, whether it's an umpire who's been appointed to a tournament somewhere, or a scorer who's scoring their first game at the under 12 World Cup, and all the way through to some of the amazing things that our players are doing. So for Travis Bazana to grow up as a young kid in Wahroonga, to play his junior baseball at Ryde, to go through a program that's supported by Baseball Australia at Baseball New South Wales, to play on a couple of junior national teams, to be part of our high performance programs that are going to the USA, to get an opportunity to get to college, to play on our under 23 national team, to play on our Premier 12 team, and to be drafted as the number one pick in the MLB draft is something that
really draws some attention.
Yeah, so it's something that like our mainstream media here in Australia, we have a very crowded market. With football and AFL and rugby and cricket. So the market is tends to be saturated with those sports. But yeah, Travis doing what he did. Yeah, I don't recall a time where people were talking about baseball as much as they did, for him to do that. And, he's an excellent young man who has some very, very high expectations of himself and aspirations to do some incredible things in baseball. And I have confidence that he'll be able to do that. And the thing that's so refreshing and so amazing for us is that, he continues to look at ways that he can utilise the interest that people are showing in him to highlight what's happening in Australia and help us grow. So we're very, very fortunate to have him as our representative or one of our latest representatives, and with the fact that he's so committed to seeing us be successful is something we're truly appreciative of.
And like you said, you're appreciative and you're fortunate is the words you use, but you work for this. You and your teams have earned this. It's not a fortune you got lucky that this guy's talking about Australia. All your hard work you put in over the last 10 years all has produced that. I just want to recognize you for that.
No, I appreciate that. Look, it takes it takes a village to raise a child, right? It takes the entire baseball community to raise a player.
Yeah, you guys did that. You should definitely feel proud of that.
I'm fortunate to be sitting as the leader of the organisation of a huge baseball community that are super passionate about it, and they want to see it be great. They want to see our players be successful. So really fortunate to be in that position. And we've got so many people in the game, whether they're in paid roles or volunteer roles. So, we're a volunteer-based sport here in Australia, and we have hundreds of clubs out there that all have people volunteering their time to mark the lines and run a little canteen and make sure the players are going uniforms and score and do all that other stuff. So Trav was a beneficiary of probably hundreds of people that were volunteering their time to be able to help him put games on like the other 40,000 people that go out there and play our sport. So it's really fortunate to be able to do it. It's a really strong and passionate baseball community. So hopefully we can continue to do great things that they celebrate.
Well, Mr. Williams, thank you for your time. I know you're getting close to running out of time here with us. So I want to say I appreciate you for taking the time to talk to me today. If I have a little bit more time with you, I have two kind of standardized questions that I like to ask the people that I talk to. One is...
let's keep going. Like I said, I'm driving at the minute, but as long as I've still got phone service, I'm happy to go.
I'm hoping you get stuck in traffic. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. So kind of my two standard questions I ask everybody. If you could call 16-year-old, 15-year-old Glenn Williams and give him some advice, baseball-related advice, what could you tell that young man?
I think that it's probably the one that I tell a lot of the young men when they're starting their careers that there's a lot of distraction, a lot of noise, a lot of things that you can get caught up in. But at the core of this, the people that end up being great at playing baseball are the best at getting better. And if you can concentrate on just being really good at getting better, then you're going to maximize your potential. You're going to get the most out of your baseball career. And if a team continues to see you getting better, then they're going to continue to give you an opportunity. So I look back at myself, and like I said, I had expectations of being a 16-year-old, and I want to go and hit 300, and I want to do this and I want to do that. And I was probably concentrating on the wrong things. So I worked really hard. I don't have any regrets about, how I went about it, or, I wasn't, out there not giving a great effort. I gave it everything I had. But if I had just, kind of mentally focused on just getting better and worrying about my own improvement as opposed to, comparing myself, statistically to my peers, I think that I would have been a lot better off.
I think that's good advice that probably translates it in many career fields. My second question I have is kind of a twist on that. If you could call up Glenn Williams, we'll say in 2005, 6, and 7, and give that young man some advice on what to expect for, ending your playing career and moving on to the next phase, what advice would you give that young man?
Look, probably the best advice I got was I received it in 2007 from a really good friend of mine, and I was living, with him and his family in Rochester. So John Feldman, is someone who I lived with, for 3 years there with he and his family, and we remained close friends. My wife and I were there. So I recall I was kind of right towards the end of my career, playing wise, I was kind of confiding in him. We were playing golf. I was confiding with him around, what's next. And, if you're an athlete and that's all you've known, then, it coming to an end can be, really daunting.
Absolutely.
And, the advice that he gave me, or the statement that he actually said was, baseball's what you do, it's not who you are. And you just have to realize that, if you're not doing baseball anymore, it doesn't necessarily mean that you can't do something else. So you don't know what's going to be around the corner. But, ultimately, if you approach what it is next with the same way that you've approached, your baseball career, then, there's endless possibilities. So rather than looking at it as, hey, I'm losing something that's, I may never replace, it's almost like, well, that chapter of your life might be over with, but, there's so much in front of you. And look, it's, something that your baseball career ends, and, for me, I don't miss playing at all. I haven't, had the itch to, and I could have come home and played in the ABL. I think I was maybe 33 when the ABL first kicked off again here in Australia. So I could have played in the ABL and I could have gone and competed, but I chose not to. I managed the team the first year of the ABL in Sydney, so I was quite content with not having to play anymore. The one thing that you do miss is the camaraderie and the competitive spirit, like getting out there and competing every day. But it's that they're the two things that I miss most about my playing career. Yeah, it was good advice. Baseball's what you do, it's not who you are. I've been really fortunate to have been in baseball roles since, my retirement. And baseball stuff is, good, and I enjoy doing that. The other stuff is really challenging, but that's what makes it exciting every day. And, being around people that you learn from is pretty cool as well.
It's been a great conversation. In my opinion, you've had two separate, very successful careers, and I have had more interest talking to you than your average Hall of Famer who, like you said, played 20 years, hung them up. And that's a story. And I've appreciated this a lot. Mr. Williams, if you ever need anything I can ever do for you.
Thanks, Jeff.
All right, thank you.
Nice to chat to you, and good to be able to reminisce around old stories and all of those kind of things. So